Hey guys, thanks for coming. For those of you who have been to one of these nutrition talks, we've been trying to push it as much as we can the last week or so. This is kind of segment one of a two-part segment. Dr. Tony's going to talk today from Premier Wellness Chiropractic. And then next Sunday, Dr. Sebastian, who's in the back, is going to be talking from Precise Chiropractic. So they're going to have pretty much similar views for the most part. So if you can make it to both talks, it'd be great. You'll probably get a little bit out of each one, but a lot of similarities as well.
He's going to do his in Polish.
There's some organic bananas up front, guys, if you want to grab something to eat. I think Tony's going to raffle off a few things at the end. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony.
Awesome, thanks, sir. So yeah, we have bananas, pens. If you want to take notes or anything, there's pens there, and then we have handouts too, which you can grab at the end of this. But what we're going to do today is we're going to dive into this instead of doing a big like PowerPoint presentation, that sort of stuff. What I really wanted, well, who's heard this before? Who's been here before? No, Dave's here. Okay, all right. So most of you guys are new, which is good because we're going to really dive into this, but I want this to turn into more of a conversation and kind of Q&A sort of thing as well as we go along. I like this setting of being in CrossFit and being in my sweatpants and being able to write man boobs on the board. This will be a little more entertaining. So for you, those are my patients. I pre-warned you here, all right? This is CrossFit style talk of paleo nutrition. And Miss Julie is also going to be here with us today and be helping us out. Julie, with Miko, has done wonderful things for herself and her family. And Julie is going to be there too as we get into kind of Q&A at the end. Julie and I were meeting on Thursday or Friday and going through. Julie is a very much of the kind of how-to. I'm going to cover kind of the why and the what a little bit more mostly today. So kind of the concepts of thinking, the why behind it. And then we're going to try and morph that into, for you guys, okay, well, how do we actually apply that and go forward? So, the beautiful thing about the paleo lifestyle, paleo nutrition, I don't even like to call it the paleo diet. The beautiful thing about it, it's not a diet. It is a way of living, okay? Everything that we try and teach and incorporate in this world of chiropractic, CrossFit, paleo, is not that it's a restricted, you need a calculator every time you go to the grocery store, you need an app, you need all this other sort of stuff, diet. It is really flippin' simple. The CrossFit Paleo lifestyle is really stinking simple, and that is the best thing my favorite thing about this, because then it's actually sustainable, okay? Who here has been on a diet before, like Weight Watchers or Atkins or South Beach, that sort of stuff? Okay, what's the longest anybody made it on one of those?
4 months.
4 months? Pretty good, actually. And so, and every time you go to Barnes & Noble's, right, if you go to the diet nutrition section, there's more than 1 or 2 books in there, right? It is a billion-dollar industry for a reason. All of those start and fail, start and fail, start and fail. Do some of them get you to lose weight? Yeah. But is it sustainable? It is not. So what we really try and do with this, what I really try to slice this up as, really simple. Don't do, and do. All right, Rachel left. I was going to make fun of her before we started, but so not. And then we added one more just for Matt. Number 4 is what the Packers applied last night. Do not tackle Colin Kaepernick. Or even touch him. All right, we'll cover that one. 45 points isn't bad. All right, so they beat the Vikings. I'm a little salty still from the week before. You stopped Joe Webb. So, but here's what this comes down to. This is in quotation marks. What I want you to get out of this is not a way to lose weight, not a way to do that sort of stuff. That will all come with it. What really, really motivates me every single day as we go forward is to teach people how to live a really, really kick-ass lifestyle, okay? For those of you, whose parents in here? Okay. So I really want you guys to pay attention to this too, because everything, that's another beautiful thing about the way of paleo eating is because it's really simple for our kids to adopt this way of eating, okay? It really is frustrating. Julie and I talk about this a lot too. When parents would come in and they go, well, I eat paleo, and their kid's in the corner, you know, throwing down some goldfish or honey grams or something, okay? This is the exact same way of eating for everybody, okay? And it's easier than you think. We'll try and get into that today. So, really, if you're CrossFitters, you got to move at full speed, okay? So the why behind this is bigger than necessarily saying, I got to lose 20 pounds or I want to do this. What I really want you to think about is, okay, if I really cleaned up my nutrition, if I really moved to the paleo diet, what would I get out of it? What would life look like going that way? What would CrossFit look like? What would my relationship with my kids look like? What would my energy levels look like? Okay? It's not just the stuff you're going to get rid of. Of course that's good too, but it's all the stuff that you get with it. This is just, I'm a father of 3 young kids, and more so than being a chiropractor or CrossFit or any of that other sort of stuff, my #1 job on this planet is to be a kick-ass dad. And I will tell you that living and eating paleo really allows me to do that. And when I fall off the wagon and I'm not, my energy suffers, and when my energy suffers, my time with my kids suffers. And I don't really like that to happen, so we stay pretty clean with it, okay? All right, so #1 things don't do. I'm going to fly through this one really quick. This will be our first reference to man boobs, but this isn't so much to do with the paleo diet. This is to do with all diets. One of our first things that we teach people when they start to clean up their nutrition is to really just flat clean it up, okay? The beautiful thing about the paleo diet is it's just real, actual food. It's not in a package, it's not in a box, it's not in a can. It is real food. Because when food comes in a package, in a bag, in a box, or in that sort of stuff, what comes with it? Preservatives, pesticides, added sugars, added salt, all that other sort of stuff, okay? We call them the P's, preservatives, pesticides, all that sort of stuff. And especially for you ladies, this is kind of one to really pay attention and to maybe make this the first move for you, and not only for women, but also for kids, okay? Because what a lot of these chemicals do, and we're going to circle back to this a couple times in this first section, a lot of the chemicals in those foods, and dairy, and even in the grains, they mimic hormones in our body. A lot of them actually mimic estrogen sort of responses, and they're what we call neuroendocrine disruptors. So when those chemicals and preservatives get into your body, your hormonal glandular system sees them as kind of stimulants, okay? And it starts to change things. A lot of fertility issues, a lot of menstrual issues, a lot of man boob issues are related to too much of this crap in our body, and our body not only having an inflammatory response to it, but having an endocrine response to it. It's huge for our kids who are developing too, okay? I live across the street from a junior high, and you just watch, first off, I sound like an old man now as I go through this now that my daughter's kidding there. But it's crazy, and maybe Dave Marshall would have liked this if he was in junior high when this was going on, but is it not that kids are developing a little bit sooner than they ever used to? Is where I'm really going with this? Why do you think that is? We're going to dig into it with dairy. It's because of all these nasty things that are circulating through their body and driving females especially into kind of just onset of menses, and that's so much quicker, okay? This is a huge, huge, huge issue because if you don't clean that up, it also really affects your metabolism, okay? These things, by mimicking that system, really, really mess with metabolism. And women, as a whole, generally have a more difficult time losing weight, okay? So in our office, we run a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness, where we really transition people right away kind of into this diet, into functional fitness, into that sort of stuff. Guys, when they get into cleaning up their diet, they literally will drop weight like crazy, and women have a little bit of a tougher time, okay? The reason for that is exactly what we're digging in right now. Women, and I say this as a nerdy science kind of chiropractor guy, not a husband who wants my wife to slap me, women are much more hormonal than men are, all right? You're much more susceptible to that stuff. So if we don't regulate this first, a woman's hormones and metabolism really stays off track, and it's hard for them to lose weight. So I jumped this right off the bat because so many diets and so many nutrition things. My wife was getting a haircut the other day, and she goes to the same gal. They're right across the parking lot from us is where their place is. And she was talking about how she wants to lose weight. So she's going to start drinking a Slim Fast shake every morning instead of having breakfast. Is that not, it's just a horrible, horrible thing. It's still that same calorie intake. But what's that Slim Fast shake have a ton of it in? Sugars and chemicals, okay? So, that's kind of where we go with this. All right. So, #2 thing that we really have to talk about. And the reason I'm going to try and dive these and cut these things apart right away in the beginning is because I actually want to spend more time talking about what we want to do, but you have to kind of transition and know this stuff first. Okay, so dairy. If we go into our kids' school and you walk in the lunchroom, you've got all these schmucks, LeBron James, you know, everybody's got their milk mustache, right? And they're telling us to eat dairy. Why do they tell us to eat dairy?
Strong bones.
Strong bones, right? And strong bones come from what?
Calcium.
calcium, right, wrong. So who tells us, if you look at, I really delayed that answer, right? If you look at the bottom of those posters, and the bottom of those ads, and the bottom of those ads on TV, who pays for those ads? U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Dairy Council, okay? If I had enough money to run a commercial on TV, and it said on the bottom, you know, paid for by the crazy-ass Chiropractors Association, it would probably say something pretty positive about chiropractic, wouldn't it? It wouldn't. And so what I'm getting at with this is the whole food plate, well, they switch it to the food plate. The food pyramid that we've all been taught is as backwards and upside down as it gets, because the next two things we're going to really blow apart are the basis of that. The first issue we have with dairy ties into actually number one there. Dairy is incredibly processed, okay? If you walk into a dairy farm, or into a dairy in Wisconsin or Iowa, wherever it may be, you're going to see some of the sickest, nastiest, most disgusting animals you'll ever see on the planet, okay? They literally opened a 5,000 head dairy 3 miles outside of my hometown. Yeah. So I should maybe even say that first, real quick. The reason I have good understanding and fortitude on the back side of this, one, yes, I'm a chiropractor. I have pediatrics and wellness and nutrition certifications. I've been studying this for the last 10 years of my life. But for the first 20 years of my life, I was a chubby, fat farm kid who looked like, you know, an overweight Corey Matthews from Boy Meets World. All right? So I grew up doing nothing but this. Processed food. Schwann's Man was our homie. All right? We got most of our food from Schwann's Man. Then we got it from Wells Blue Bunny, the ice cream capital of the world. I grew up in Iowa, and we ate nothing but grains and corn. Okay? I literally grew up on a soybean, corn, and cattle farm. Alright? So when I first started hearing this stuff and went through it, it was really quite incredible. So that's my hometown. I am the, you know, black piranha going back for Christmas now when we paleo and have our yuppie meat as my uncle. My uncle is actually the national bacon sales manager for Cargill. The highest man regarding bacon. He sells more bacon than anybody on the planet. And that's a true statement. And so he hooked us up with some of our grass-fed beef stuff, and he calls it yuppie. My uncle is about 45, looks like he's 65, and he's about 80 pounds overweight. Okay? So, long story short, where I'm going with this is the first thing is that it's very processed. The dairy they built outside of my hometown, which makes it smell even more pleasant than it used to, literally has 2 armed guards. Okay? You cannot get a tour of the dairy outside of my hometown because it is so sick and nasty what they do in there. And I'm not making this stuff up. I tried when we were home, okay? It's because they pump the cattle so full of growth hormones and so full of corn, which we'll dig into in a minute. Corn and grains is just sugar, okay? So the way you make more money in farming is you produce more, right? So you produce more fat and meat, or you produce more milk. So they drive them full of growth hormones, and they drive them full of sugar, so these cattle are the sickest animals out there, okay? They get no exercise, they get no sunlight, they're holed up in these huge, gigantic barns, and all of that stuff gets into the milk, okay? The USDA and the FDA and all that, they have acceptable amounts of things that can go into our food and into our milk and into our flu shots, right? Yeah, mercury's not good, all right? None of that stuff is good in our food or in our shots or any of that sort of stuff, okay? I had to throw a flu shot. So really where I'm going with that is first off, it's processed and it's full of crap. Second, dairy, yes, it has calcium in it, and it also has a whole bunch of other crap. The protein in dairy, called casein, so who's probably heard of like casein-free, gluten-free sort of diets, right? That's kind of picking up a lot of speed lately. Casein, so move to nerd style a little bit of this. Casein is a huge mongrel protein. If you look at it underneath the microscope, it has more carbon chains and more things to it than almost any other protein that we digest. What that means is that our digestive system has a really tough time breaking casein down into glucose, protein, and fat, okay? It has a really difficult time digesting, and let alone how bad we are at digesting due to all the rest of our lifestyle and that sort of stuff too. So what happens is casein becomes incompletely broken down in the digestive system, spills over into our bloodstream of our gut, and our body actually has an immune response to it because it doesn't see it as food, it sees it as a foreign invader, it sees it as a pathogen. When our body has an immune response, it creates inflammation, And when it creates inflammation, it creates mucus to try and squash out that inflammation, okay? I always kind of make a joke about this, but it's absolutely true. Cows have 4 freaking stomachs for a reason, so they can digest their shit, okay? Human beings cannot digest this. Milk, cow's milk, yogurt, whatever it is, dairy products are not meant for human beings. We are genetically incongruent with our ability to digest those foods, okay? It is absolutely atrocious. And so what happens is, and even this, if you take all of that and break down a simple thing, what is yogurt, what is cheese, and what does milk look like? What's the consistency of it? Yeah, fat, thick, mucousy stuff, right? What's happening right now to everybody, the flu pandemic, everybody's got cold and sinuses and that sort of stuff. Because they're sitting on their ass inside eating bagels with cream cheese on them, all right? That is why people are sick right now. They have too much mucus production going on in their body. And dairy is a huge, huge, huge component of it. And I'm going to kind of jump ahead to this, and we'll bring it back in the conversation with sugar and grains. But dairy at the same time, sorry, I got to kind of blow this up so you guys can get the real concepts of it. Dairy is one of the absolute worst foods for our bones there is. Because dairy is a very acidic sort of food, okay? What happens is our body has an acid-base balance, or a pH balance. And it likes to keep our pH actually slightly alkaline, to about 7.2 to 7.4, okay? Reason being, anything in an acidic environment is corrosive, right? So if you put something in acid, you know, anybody remember the Stephen King movie, It? Ever seen that? Battery acid? Always pops in my brother made, yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
After you know.
Not regarding my childhood movies that I had watched.
No, it's not about it.
I'm still terrified of clowns, thanks to that movie. But where I'm going with that is, acid is very, very, very corrosive. So, when we eat a highly acidic diet, which dairy is a big, big, big piece of that, our body shifts our pH to a slightly acidic pH. Well, in our body, we have 2 major alkaline, so neutralizing ions, calcium and magnesium. Where do we store most of our calcium? Bones. So when we eat an acidic diet and our blood, our pH is actually acidic, what happens is it signals our body to actually leach calcium from our bones to neutralize and buffer that acidity. So it is a bold-faced lie. Dairy is one of the worst foods for our bones because we actually lose calcium. And first off, the calcium that's in it isn't really readily absorbable, and second, it actually causes us to leach and lose calcium from our bones. There's been dairy posters and dairy commercials for decades and decades and decades, and is osteoporosis becoming a bigger issue or less of an issue? It continues to go forward. So we've done nothing about it, okay? So the other thing too, you know what, and related to CrossFit, so I'll try and throw as many little kind of asterisks as I can related to what we do in this community. The other real kind of alkaline ion in our body is magnesium, okay? So magnesium is more in the muscles and calcium is more in the bones. Magnesium is the #1 muscle relaxer in the entire body. It's kind of like our natural muscle relaxer. So on one hand, magnesium tends to be and calcium in dark green leafy vegetables. We'll get into that when we come into this section. So we're not getting enough of them. And then we're eating enough of an acidic diet that our body actually leaches calcium and leaches magnesium to try and buffer our blood. And where I'm going with this is we actually get a lot of muscle cramp. Okay? When the muscles are low on magnesium, they become constricted, they become tight, they become spastic. So recovery from a workout, endurance from a workout, flexibility and mobility are all going to be greatly compromised if you don't eat the paleo diet. Okay? So if you're having a real difficult time gaining mobility, or you're having a real difficult time with recovery from your workouts and muscle soreness from your workouts, it may not be just lack of time on the foam roller and stretching out. The most likely culprit for that may actually be your diet, okay? You will be amazed as CrossFitters when you clean this up and do what we're talking about here for this hour today, how much of a difference it makes in your performance at CrossFit. And we all know with CrossFit, you know, we're not going to be Dave and Rosie, we're not going to be Lomans and Marshalls and rocking out on ESPN and that sort of stuff, but our own individual performances are huge, right? He didn't see him on ESPN. Beach volleyball. Yeah. But it's huge, right? So we love this for a reason. We love to measure our performance. We love to measure where we're at. Guys, you're going to be stuck in sludge. You're going to be stuck in slow response, slow recovery, slow improvements if you don't clean up your diet. So I'll reference back to this, which I forgot to mention this too. This is the pyramid of CrossFit, right? Why is nutrition on the bottom? Because you're not going to be real smooth at any of these physical capacities if your body's not running on rocket fuel, okay? If you put crap in the tank, your car's going to run like crap. Not chiropractic here. This is Sebastian with the bicep. This is not me, okay? Holding this up and push pressing it. But the reason I say this is a lot of people are mistaken really what chiropractic is all about. If you come into Sebastian and I's office, it's not just a whole bunch of, old people with sore backs that we're cracking and that sort of stuff, okay? Chiropractic's a lifestyle. And for those of you that know me, when we talk about chiropractic, the adjustment's the core of what we do, but the teaching, the lifestyle is everything that we're about. So really, chiropractic admitted this, I'm pretty sure. I'll find the reference. Alright, so, did I beat up the dairy, boobs, fire away.
I have a question as far as like infants go, because we are sort of breastfeeding.
Yeah.
At what point because we have that natural inclination to breastfeed our children, at what point do you stop giving them dairy? Or at least your own breast milk or whatever?
Stop giving them dairy? You mean if they're on formula?
I guess, I don't know, like what
I know.
you kind of like wean them off.
Yeah. Okay, great question. First off, truthfully, and that's the concept we all kind of have, because pediatricians, see this is a great question. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in the world, being a pediatric chiropractor, because most people rely on pediatricians for the nutritional advice for their kids, right, as they go forward. Pediatricians have, by the time you get done today, you will have a 15-fold better understanding of nutrition than a pediatrician, okay? And I don't say that just because we'll get it. Matt, don't let me get off of that stuff. But they just don't have the education and the understanding on that, okay? So the same thing is always perpetuated down. First foods, cow's milk, cereal grains, right? So really, the way I'm going to respond to that is to say, first off, they should never have to wean off the dairy because they should never be on. So I'll start with kind of the ideals.
Not even like breast milk. I'm not talking about like giving them like processed stuff.
Yeah, no. I know that. So really, first off, if the mother, the best way for a mother to be nursing her child should be if the mother is eating a paleo diet. Because if the mom is not eating a paleo diet, then that casein, which is already really difficult for a mother's digestive system to take down, is nearly impossible for a tiny little baby with a very immature digestive system to break down, okay? So that's why absolutely breastfeeding is the #1 thing to do. What you want to do as you transition from breastfeeding to that is really, think of it, again, not to bring the farm thing back in, but even cows wean off of cow's milk. And what they wean onto is water, okay? Now, there is different options that we have these days, from almond milk and those sort of things, but really children should get a little bit older before they do that. So, so the ideal scenario would be for a mother to nurse at least 1 to 2 years and move forward to the point where once a child is done and weans off breast milk, that they can basically go to solid foods and a solid food diet and water to go along with it. Now, if something gets in the way of breastfeeding and something is difficult there is actually different homemade recipes through things like the Weston A. Price Foundation. Our chiropractic website has, the pediatric website has some natural resources that you can make on your own. There's also there's formulas that are out there that are more goat's milk based and that sort of stuff. So there's ways to make that more digestible and that for children. But think of it this way. This is why it's another perfect thing for that too. Kids, we have such difficulties digesting these foods. Kids, infants, have huge difficulties digesting these foods, okay? Acid reflux, colic, gas, all these things that so many infants are put on Prevacid and Prilosec. I don't get to watch TV so much, but that fat Larry the Cable Guy, I guess they now have flavored Prilosec. Anybody seen that? What is it, like berry blast Prilosec or something?
They have flavored birth control.
They have flavored birth control?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sorry. Oh my gosh. So anyway, but
everything's better with strawberry.
Yeah, right. But seriously, ear infections, colic, sinus infections, respiratory infections, 2 problems. Bad plumbing, okay? Kids, this is a chiropractic thing. Kids are born too often via C-section, birth trauma, long extended births that are intervened with. They have a lot of stress and misalignment at the top of their neck. It clogs their drain pipe. Like the plunger on your drain, when C1 and C2 are out of alignment, the ears and sinuses don't drain. Pediatricians say, well, oh, kids, they just have more horizontal, ear tubes. And they're like, yeah, they do. That's why they're designed. It's not wrong. It's not just gravity that drains your ENT structures, okay? It's movement of the neck and the muscles, okay? And if they're clogged and they're damaged, you get bad plumbing, and kids, the longer that sits in there, they get infected. Second thing that causes it, whether it be colic or reflux or ear infections, is this crap. Because now, when a child or the mother who's nursing and passes it on to their child eats this stuff, we get a very inflammatory, very mucus-producing sort of diet. So now you have bad plumbing with a lot of mucus and congestion. Viruses set up shop and live there. What do pediatricians do? God, I did get on a pediatrician rant right away, didn't I? That didn't take, what, 20 minutes? So what happens is about 5, 6, 7 courses of antibiotics in a year, because that way they can eliminate all the probiotics in the gut that the child probably never got in the first place and really weaken their immune response. And then after that doesn't work 6 times, drill a hole there. It's barbaric. It really is. This is not just crazy chiropractor of the week thinking this, okay? This is just flat out understanding physiology and knowing how it affects us. And it's not fair. It's not fair for us being kind of misled and not understanding this stuff. And it really, as you can probably tell, gets me a little hot and bothered related to kids and infants especially, okay? So, did I get there somewhat?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. All right. You just know this. If you ask a question, it comes with 2 tangents, automatically. All right, then go with it, which I love. So, ask away. Number 3, sugar and grains, okay? I will say this. Let me split this out real quick so I can, for those of you maybe to connect a little bit more to what may be going on with you or your family. In practice for 5 years, here's what I generally see. So what we have is we have a lot of people who have a lot of, and especially a lot of kids, ongoing congestion, allergies, asthma, respiratory related things, right? The respiratory system is especially sensitive to dairy, okay? Dairy, because of the physiological reactions that come with it, creates a lot of mucus, which creates a lot of respiratory and congestive sort of issues, okay? So if you're having those sort of issues, get dairy out, and those issues will absolutely pretty much melt away, okay? Number 3, sugar and grains and the wheat. So grain-related issues, grains tend to really tear things up more to the gut, which I'll explain here in a second. So more, obviously, celiac is the grand version of this, but if you're having upset stomach, constipation, gas, absorption sort of issues, that's really more of a grain-based thing, okay? In 5 years of doing this with kids and patients, if they have the stuff in the respiratory system, we clean that out, night and day difference. If they're having stuff in their gut, dairy screws up the gut too, don't get me wrong, and grains does the other thing too, but that's kind of the big markers on that. All right, so sugar, dairy, and grains. So to really, really understand this, we got to kind of do a little bit of a historical perspective on it, I guess I'll call it. First off, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, kind of more like in the 70s and 80s, is when heart disease, and so this would be our parents' generation kind of, when heart disease really started to kind of run rampant, okay? So what happened is the cardiologists, American Heart Association, and the medical associations, they looked at it and they said, okay, well, heart attacks seem to be caused by these fatty depositions, little fat molecules, clogging up arteries and causing heart attacks. So again, in their infinite wisdom, they said, well, it must just be because of our high-fat diets then. We're eating too much meat. We're eating too much red meat. So red meat and fat got absolutely blasted, right? And pretty much anything that happens in that world of thinking is picked up by the media and passed on just like flu shots and anything else, okay? So for the next generation, everybody was told to eat what kind of diet? Low fat, right? Fat-free, low fat. What does low fat really mean? Full of crap and sugar, right? You get all of this stuff now with it. So what happened is our whole society moved away from more of a meat and vegetable sort of diet to a healthy whole grain diet, right? Well, healthy whole grains, the main one which absolutely dominates our diet and everything that's out there pretty much in a traditional American diet is wheat. Wheat has a higher glycemic index to it than a Snickers bar. Okay? The glycemic index of whole wheat, not just white bread and white pasta, that sort of stuff, of whole wheat is around 70 to 80. The glycemic index, so now to go back even further, the glycemic index is a measure of how quickly the body digests the carbohydrate in our food and turns it into glucose. The more simple it is digested, the more quickly it is digested, the faster our glucose levels spike in our blood, and then we get into what we call this insulin response, okay? So even say like different fruits, okay? Bananas, great paleo food. Okay. Bananas have a higher sugar content to them than say strawberries or an apple, okay? And we're going to really dig into that with this, especially when we kind of start to get over here. But really, if out of all the stuff we're going through today, and I know there's multiple layers to it, but the one thing that I think is the overriding theme that I really want you to have a good understanding of. So I'm going to go through this now, and then if this doesn't make sense, literally 100% makes sense for you guys, please ask me questions, is really the insulin response. The number one overlooked thing that people don't understand about their health and about how their diet, nutrition, and lifestyle feeds into it is insulin, okay? So here's this whole story. What happens is when we eat carbohydrates, okay, our body breaks them down into simple glucose, okay? And as glucose gets into the bloodstream, it then signals through the nervous system and the endocrine system, it signals our pancreas to secrete insulin, okay? So the faster and the more sugar that's coming into our bloodstream, the more signals, the more insulin response is going to come up, right? That makes sense for everybody? So insulin's job is, insulin is actually a fat storage, more of a transport molecule. It's a hormone, okay? So now we're kind of getting into that hormone metabolism sort of thing again. So when we eat carbohydrates and they break down into glucose, our body responds by secreting insulin. Insulin's first job is to latch onto the glucose molecule and transport it to the body, to the muscle, okay? The first thing it wants to do is to take that glucose and transport it across the cell of the muscle, across the cell membrane, and into the muscle. Because sugar is not all evil. Sugar is our fuel, okay? We got to kind of remember that as we go through this. So it's supposed to get into the muscle, and the muscle uses that as gas, okay? Just like gasoline into the engine of our car, all right? But what happens is a twofold issue in the good old US of A, okay? One, we now eat a grain-based, healthy, whole food, bottom of the pyramid is whole grain diet. So our body constantly is getting bombarded by glucose, 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 sugar, 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 okay? So now there's a ton of glucose floating around through our body, so our body has to secrete a lot of insulin. So the muscle is constantly being bombarded by insulin knocking on the door saying, hey, do you need any gas? Do you need any gas? Do you need any gas? And the second issue that comes with that is most people spend their entire time not using gas, but sitting on their ass, okay? And so the muscle goes, dude, I haven't moved since junior high gym class. Stop asking me if I need any gas, all right? It doesn't take that much to play my computer games and to change the channel. So the muscle, just like if your mother-in-law or Matt Lohman keeps calling you all the time and you don't want to answer it, the muscle actually uses kind of like a form of caller ID. And it down-regulates what are called the insulin receptors on the cell membrane because it gets sick of that knocking on the door. So it just stops answering, okay? So now what happens is insulin can't get the sugar into the muscle because the muscle doesn't need it and the muscle is becoming resistant to it anyway. So where, ladies, do we tend to store that extra sugar? I've got that bucket. It's the number one thing when women come in. I say ladies because it's the number one thing that women come into our program and ask us about. Why? And then guys too, but women, because of the endocrine responses, really get this in a much more difficult way, where they just can't change their body structure to the way they want it, despite every diet that they've ever changed. Insulin resistance is the key to this. Insulin then takes that sugar, takes it to the gut, so we call it central obesity or central fat storage, and it takes it to the gut and it converts it through something called the Krebs cycle into fat, into adipose tissue. So where I'm really going with all this, a high-fat diet in no way, shape, or form makes us fat. A high-carbohydrate, whole grain diet makes us extremely fat. Because what's happened in the last 20 to 30 years is we've shifted to a low-fat, whole grain-based diet. We're fatter and more obese. 1/3 of our population is obese. 2/3 are overweight. Our children are now not even going to have the same life expectancy as we have. Because now what used to be called adult onset diabetes, which is the next evolution of this I'll take you through, is now no longer called adult onset diabetes. We just kind of switch it back over to type 2 because kids are getting it at 12. Kids are getting it at 13, okay? And so really what this comes down to is that's a twofold issue, okay? One, we're taking in way too much carbohydrate and way too much sugar, okay? And two, we're not burning enough off. So our body becomes resistant to insulin, okay? In the last year of doing 8 Weeks to Wellness, we've probably run, I'd say, about 150 blood panels on people. And most people, I've had discussions with some of you guys on this, most people, you know, most traditional blood panels look for metabolic issues. They look at glucose and A1C numbers. Has anybody had a blood panel recently and had those numbers tested? Okay. Has anybody, if you've been in my office, you don't count, has anybody had their insulin levels ever checked then? You did? Okay. They generally don't even check insulin levels in diabetics. You had to ask. Yeah. Because they see, this is all more kind of what we call functional wellness or functional medicine stuff. In about 150 of those blood tests that I've ran in my office, and for people of all different weights and body compositions and that sort of stuff, I've maybe had 5 people with normal insulin levels. Okay? But I'd say about 90% of them had normal glucose levels. Insulin resistance is absolutely 100% the smoke before the fire. And I touched on the big part of it with how that whole cycle works, but now when we have, there's so much more to it. The one handout I have here with the facts about wheat gets into it a little bit. When we have the central obesity and this fat deposition, where it's actually depositing all that fat is over our visceral organs, over our liver, over our kidneys, over ovaries, over our intestines. And these fats actually start to produce inflammatory cytokines and those sort of things, which start to mimic estrogen again. I thought I had man boobs down here too. Sorry, I left the man boobs out. They fit here too, okay? So what happens is it just feeds that whole same cascade and it really disrupts this. And also wheat and sugar is also a very acid-based food. But the whole key to this, guys, is understanding how to control your insulin and how to control your metabolism of blood sugar. If you get that, if you understand that the paleo diet really has 2 or 3 main things to it. 1, it's clean. 2, it controls our inflammation. And 3, it controls our blood sugar. You will have more energy, more weight loss, more vitality, better sleep, better mood, better everything than you've ever had before, okay? It is really all about controlling that blood sugar. It's football season, so this analogy always sticks in my mind, but really, if you guys are in a tough place with this, one of the first things I would say to do is to Google glycemic index charts or email me and I'll send them to you, and literally, like, plaster it, get a poster-sized version of low to moderate to high glycemic index fruits, vegetables, and foods, and just know that. Just like a quarterback has their, you know, their play scripts on their wrist, you've got to understand how foods that putting into your body, the higher the glycemic index, the faster it's going to crash your blood sugar, the more insulin you're going to spike, the more fat you're going to deposit. Okay? Guys, that all makes sense to everybody, how that whole roller coaster works? And that's what it becomes, right? Because when you eat a high sugar food, your body spikes your blood sugar. See you guys. And I know. And then you get but then you go high, then you go low, then you go high. So you eat breakfast, Fruity Pebbles, bagels with cream cheese, and at 9:30, 10 o'clock, what happens? You're dead, right? You got no energy. So what do you get again? Another bagel, okay? Or something like that. And you're just on this roller coaster. This ages us, it degenerates and causes arthritis like none other, okay? It just absolutely is a huge, huge issue. Okay. So, now we've literally beat up, torn up, all that sort of stuff, but the reason we do that is because understanding that makes it so much easier to understand why this stuff is so far superior and so much cleaner and easier and beneficial to us. So, let's go through some of this stuff. The number one thing that we're all missing is hydration, okay? This is the easiest, simplest part that so many people are not doing, is staying well hydrated. We are so flipping busy in the United States and Crystal Lake, running around from this to that, to work, to cheerleading, to every single thing that we do, that nobody drinks water hardly anymore, okay? So hopefully most of you in here being CrossFitters are good with this, but water is huge for getting your metabolism going, and water is huge for detoxing your body. So the two number ones kind of tie in there. Number 2, what do you guys think, and I probably said it, the answer's probably pretty clear from how I wrote that down there, but what's more important, organic fruits and vegetables or organic meat? Organic meat, absolutely. It is higher up the food chain, okay? So if you go to that dairy, if you go to the farm that I grew up on, the cattle, so the farm I grew up on, they ate GMO, pesticide-sprayed corn all day long, right? That's all they did. They got very little exercise, so because that's how they got fat faster. So what happens is cattle accumulate, and meat and those sort of things accumulate more of these sugars and these toxins into their bodies. Then when we eat that, we get a double response from that, okay? You go to like Ruth's Chris and different steakhouses, and what's their selling point, right? What's their selling factor? High marbled, high taste, Iowa corn-fed beef, right? Why does corn-fed beef taste better? Anybody know? It's got sugar in it. The higher the fat content, the same metabolism that I just explained to you guys with insulin and sugar response works for cattle too. The higher grain-based diet they eat, which they are not genetically supposed to be eating either, they're supposed to eat what? Grass. So the higher sugar diet that they eat makes them fatter, and that fat is literally laced with more sugar, so it tastes better, okay? So a lot of people, when they switch over to grass-fed beef and more lean sort of beef, they have a little bit of issue with it because they're used to eating. Anybody experience this as you switched over to grass-fed, where it's a little bit different taste and fought it a little bit more?
Yeah, but now it's the opposite.
It is absolutely the opposite. Now when you switch and you go somewhere and you eat a regular burger or a regular thing, you're like, you can taste that shit in there, can't you? You really, really, really can. But this is a huge thing. The other thing is that they're going to accumulate those toxins, okay? I don't have, it won't really be big enough, but who here has seen Food Inc? Okay. Food Inc. is absolutely really one of the best movies to see, and when you watch it, I would encourage everybody to watch it multiple times. When you watch it, pay attention to the part where they literally have a hole in the cow's stomach and the guy's in there digging it out, right? I had the part where they talk about meat and how wrong that is. Cattle literally, they have 4 stomachs and they can't digest this stuff. The cattle take half of the antibiotics in this country. We overuse antibiotics like nobody's business, and yet cattle still take half of them. They are sick. They don't eat grains, and they're not supposed to eat dairy themselves. They're not supposed to eat, corn and grains and that sort of stuff themselves either. So what really kind of tears it up. So what you get out of grass-fed meat is the absolute perfect form of metabolism. Okay. A high-fat diet. So people, nutritionists, registered dietitians, and that sort of stuff, they are going to beat this whole diet up like crazy, right? They're going to freak out when you tell them that you wrap everything in bacon, that you have mitzvahs, and all that other sort of stuff, right? They're going to go, well, what about your whole grains, and what about this? Where do you get your calcium? Number 3, we're going to get into that, okay? But what happens is a high-fat diet literally normalizes your metabolism, okay? Because fat this is the number one thing that screwed this whole thing up too, besides the heart disease issue, is the whole take that really to lose weight, maintain a healthy weight, it's all about calories in versus calories burned, right? Again, does anybody have to beat that up at all, or does everybody understand that that's kind of off track, right? Where I'm going with that is not all calories are created equal. The reason people beat up fat is because protein and carbohydrates have 4 grams, okay? 4 calories per gram of protein and carbohydrate, whereas fat has 9 calories per gram of fat. So the whole thinking is the more calories we take in, the more weight and less we burn, the more we're going to gain. That really couldn't be further from the truth, because what they do is they take these poor innocent people and they put them on 1,200 calorie a day diets full of healthy whole grains and sugars and dairy, and it destroys their metabolism and they don't get anywhere, okay? That's why all the issues we have in this country, from heart disease to diabetes to obesity, are not trending in the direction we've done, because we haven't corrected this whole thinking as a whole. So what happens when you metabolize fat is your body metabolizes the fat and goes, thank you, this is nice, clean energy, okay? And most importantly, we really want to have the omega-3 monounsaturated fats as the primary fat coming in, okay? Because yes, saturated fats, while you certainly can have some of them in your diet, it's more about balance than anything. Most people actually have 20-to-1 or higher ratios of omega-6 fatty acids to omega-3. The omega-6 fatty acids are the things that are found in processed meats and that sort of stuff, okay? Those are highly inflammatory, kind of pro-inflammatory meats and fats, okay? The omega-3s, 60% of your brain is made up of fat, okay? The myelin sheath, the covering that covers all of your nerves and your brain tissue, it's made up of fat, okay? Our brain size has literally decreased, our head size, 11% since the onset of agriculture, okay? In Paleolithic times, diabetes was not heard of. Heart disease, not heard of. Depression, not there. Arthritis, not there. Alzheimer's, not there. Dementia, not there. Paleolithic ancestors who moved like CrossFitters and ate paleo diets, meats, vegetables, a little bit of fruit, nuts and seeds, and drank water, when they got old, they didn't go to nursing homes. They didn't take Lipitor, Zocor, and 900 other different medications. They literally moved back in with their families and were still functional parts of the family unit. So now as their children were raising their kids, they had a healthy, vital, still movable grandpa and grandma to help out, okay? Now what do we have? We have grandpa and grandma living with us. Why? Because they can't move. Because somebody needs to force feed them their 9 meds that Merck marketed to them, right? We are so backwards, not just because, this is a twofold issue, guys. We are so backwards, not just because of what we're adding that we shouldn't, because of what we're putting in that we should, but really the bigger issue is we're deficient. We are more malnourished than we've ever been in our entire lives, okay? When people eat low-fat diets, they're eating an Alzheimer's promoting diet. That is just flat out plain and true, okay? If you are not getting omega-3 fatty acids into your diet, your nervous system cannot function, okay? Your metabolism is thrown completely off base. It is so much more important to get good, clean, healthy meats into your diet than it is for really almost anything else, okay?
I have a question. When you're talking about the grass-fed meats, I take it you're talking primarily the cows. What about chickens?
Chickens then should be pasture-raised and eat more what they call a vegetarian sort. It'll most likely be described as kind of a vegetarian sort of diet, but they should be eating, what is it? It's grubs and insects.
Right,
and
poking and that. So the vegetarian eggs that you see in the store are not good for you because those chickens are in a concrete floored, chickens are bugs. Chickens are not vegetarian. So.
You know what? This is a perfect time. You're coming up.
Yeah.
What about grass-fed finished?
What's that?
Grass-fed finished meat.
Well, generally what that means, so you're saying they feed them a grain-fed diet to begin with and finish them on grain? Usually, I've heard it most commonly the other way around.
Yeah, I heard it the other way.
Yeah, where a lot of times what will happen is, let me think through this one second. Most of the time what will happen is they will have a grass-fed diet, then for 3-4 months at the end, they'll finish them with grains to kind of add marbling to it.
They do it the other way.
They do?
Because we get people that ask, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't seem more and more where it's grass-fed finished last, 30, 60 days of.
I think
It's better than.
it's better than the other way around.
Right?
Whatever.
Yeah.
I was going to say, physiologically, I would think that would be better than where they're grass-fed most of the time, and then they load them up with grains at the end, because that's still, the cow hasn't had time to process and detox that out versus the other way around.
Right. But still, you need 100%.
Yeah.
Which you can.
Yeah. But can you talk about poultry and chicken even a little bit more with that, like with Miko and where you guys source it?
Right. Well, as far as chicken goes, I'm told from farmers that they can't just pasture chicken; they need feed. So you want to look for, I look for farmers who don't feed soy.
Yeah.
So they're going to eat corn, they're going to eat chicken feed, but soy is a big one to stay away from.
And the reason that is real quick, 95–98% of soy is genetically modified. Okay. It has been altered, its genetic structure has been altered. And this is a whole other concept that, for whoever wins that book will get, but we are more similar to our Paleolithic ancestors genetically than 2 tomatoes are similar to each other genetically. Okay? This whole BS about all of this sickness and illness being genetic is completely true. We are living incongruently with how our genetics are. Okay? So, soy, you know, in its natural form is not as terrible as GMO, but when you add that, again, whether chicken or human being, when it's genetically modified, we don't absorb it very well, and it creates reactions within our body.
So you're stating that that the soy that's grown in the United States is all genetically modified?
98% of soy in the United States is genetically modified.
Plus, you're getting the estrogen effect of soy. So soy is, we went to the coffee shop and I'm like, almond milk, you know, for the kids. Well, we have soy, Jacqueline. I'm like, that is not a replacement for almond milk.
It's been a huge issue where people feel, okay, I'm going to move away from dairy and go to soy. You're still going to get moves. Okay, so in a different way, soy is loaded with phytoestrogens, and so soy is really not good for females because it really drives your estrogens quicker, harder, faster than they naturally should, and it's really not good for males, especially developing boys, because they, you know, males aren't supposed to have too much estrogen. I had one crazy chiropractor tell me that if you feed your little boy, this is the CrossFit version, if you feed your little boy soy milk, he'll end up on Glee. That's what it says. Or a Packer fan.
The same goes for pork though. Pork you want pastured and organic is better than not, but you don't want to just strictly look at organic because even with organic beef is not good. You need, because we're all eating organic corn. So.
Truthfully, yeah, if you pull these two words out, which one's more important? This guy. What we're talking about is the most important thing for us is what we're eating, the actual type of food and fuel that we're putting into our body. It's that way for animals, and so if we're higher up that food chain, it's kind of got an extra asterisk to it, right?
So we order like a lot of the grass-fed beef online and stuff. Do you guys know of anywhere just local you can go to get grass-fed beef?
I do.
You can go, yeah. You can order and have it delivered to the gym. That's part of what I do, besides helping Tony with stuff, with nutrition stuff, is go on the Meat Goat. It's on one of these flyers. And we source out of west of Madison, out of Organic Farm. So you can order that and have it delivered here. We do that for lots of CrossFit gyms, and we do home deliveries. If you know people that are interested that don't necessarily go to CrossFit,
yeah, there's the Miko is where we get a ton of our stuff. There's also Q7, which is Q7 Ranch, is out of Marengo. They're like 3 miles south of Marengo. They will deliver. You can also go right there, especially for those of you that may live out in that direction.
We don't do tons of chicken, but Door to Door has good organic chicken.
That's what I was gonna say. So I don't know how, we don't really have raffle tickets or something, so I'll find a way at the end here. But Door to Door Organics, for those of you, has anybody tried Door to Door Organics yet? It's phenomenal. And Door to Door Organics not only has the fruit and vegetable stuff, but they are a sustainable organic food company who's trying to really kind of move in this. So what they've done is they've sourced, you can get Q7's beef delivered with your box. We just started getting, what farm does that come from? A chorizo breakfast sausage that they have is incredible. And they have, so that's, I have it today, they didn't, I give it away today. Gunthorpe Farms, their chicken, the whole chickens you can get from Door to Door Organics that literally then ships right to your door. We get it at our, we have a co-op at our office every Thursday too. Brent, do they still ship out here? Do you guys, is the co-op going out here anymore? With Door to Door?
Not right now.
Yeah. If you guys join it, then it would get going. But no, you can get the chicken from them as well. But that's really just such a cleaner, the content of the meat is so much more health promoting, not just because it's clean, but because of what's actually in it, what your body can actually do. And then, so number 3, quick, as we kind of chop these apart, and then we'll kind of go more to Q&A. But the vegetable side of things is absolutely crucial because vegetables as a whole are carbohydrates, right? So do vegetables stimulate insulin response, all that sort of stuff? Yes, they do. But vegetables have low glycemic index and are loaded with fiber, okay? Guess what else they're loaded with? Calcium and magnesium. So people go, well, if I stop giving my kid dairy, then what am I? Where's he going to get calcium? Green leafy fruits and vegetables. And not only that, but spinach, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, all these sort of things are absolutely loaded with calcium and magnesium. And most importantly, they're loaded with it in an actually digestible, absorbable state so the body actually gets them and takes them in. So really, as we look at that, the vegetable side of things, you can't, with the paleo diet, the whole calorie thing completely goes out the window, okay? If you were to come and see the amount of food that we eat, or if you bring a dietitian into our house and for our meals and see the amount of bacon, sausage, beef, vegetables that we eat, calories if you added it all up, how much we eat, it's incredible. But guess what our body does with it? It burns it quickly, efficiently, and smoothly, and either turns it into fuel or turns it into waste. It's simple and it's efficient, okay? When you eat all of this, your body has no clue what to do with this. So literally you become malnourished because this is missing all of this, and then you become toxic because it's adding a whole bunch of crap that your body doesn't know what to do with. The other very important thing, I'm going to kind of bring these together. Nuts, seeds, and then if you're going to eat fruit, your lower glycemic index, such as berries, are absolutely, like strawberries and nuts and grannies, with apples have good fiber content. Those are by far and away the best forms of fruit that you can get because they have a lower glycemic index and a high antioxidant profile, which we'll circle back to it. But nuts and seeds are absolutely crucial because nuts and seeds contain very healthy proteins and very healthy fats. Okay? That's a very big missing part of our diet that our Paleolithic ancestors ate like crazy. They did not snack on Cheetos, Doritos, and Taco Bell, okay? They snacked on nuts and seeds religiously, every single day. They were foragers, hunter-gatherers, so they're constantly moving. They're eating meat, they're eating nuts and seeds, and they're eating fruits and vegetables, okay? There was not Greek yogurt floating around in their days, okay? There was not whole grain bagels. The Great American Bagel Company did not exist, okay? And that too, that's a whole other thing. One of the best, is it on? I don't think it's, one of the best books to read, the most recent one I've read that I think almost does it better than anything, is Wheat Belly. Has anybody had it? It's this Dr. William or Richard Davis. I meant to grab a copy today and bring it, but Barnes & Noble wasn't open until 10. But Wheat Belly by Dr. Davis, he's actually in Wisconsin, he's a preventative cardiologist, is truly phenomenal. One other thing that we don't even bring up, the wheat we eat today is completely different than the wheat that used to be there 1,000 years ago when we were genetically kind of really getting things set up, okay? It used to have 14 chromosomes. We have now genetically modified wheat so much. When plants become genetically modified, this is the soy issue too. When two human beings, the Martians are gone, so I can't use them for my reference now. When two human beings get together and create offspring, they share chromosomes. We each have 46, it's 23 and 23, and it stays at 46. That never changes. When plants become genetically modified or mate together, their chromosomes double, okay? So now genetically, our body is used to eating 14 chromosome wheat, and now we have 4,000 chromosome wheat, and our body can't digest it. Okay, it has no idea, let alone all the other stuff that comes with the high glycemic index. It's just completely foreign, okay? It's like injecting the flu vaccine into your bloodstream. Not a good idea. All right, so berries, nuts and seeds, and vegetables. The other great thing of this, now I'm going to give a couple very specific CrossFit related things and come back to it. Another huge issue that people are dealing with in this country is absolute being exploded and destroyed by what we call free radicals, okay? So free radical damage. What happens is when we have a high stress environment or when we do high intensity forms of exercise, okay, our body naturally creates free radicals. When we're exposed to chemicals, our body creates free radicals, okay? So this is especially important to CrossFitters. Because free radical creation is normal with high intensity anaerobic sort of exercise. That form of exercise is actually very detoxing and it creates oxygen blast to our brain. That's a whole other topic for another day, but there's no better form of exercise than CrossFit functional fitness. But one offshoot that does come with it is we create a higher capacity of free radicals. That's an issue for a lot of people because they're already creating a lot of free radicals because they're too stressed, working too much, computer too much, iPhone too much, too many things going on, and they also have too many chemicals coming into their body. Then the other side of it is fruits, vegetables, and even truthfully clean organic meats, because the cattle eat grass, are supposed to have and do have a very high antioxidant load, okay? Free radicals create inflammation, breakdown in our body, and antioxidants' job are to come in and clean those things up, okay? So if you're low on vegetables and kind of even you know, berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, those have the highest antioxidant loads. We've all kind of heard like red wine extract and grape seed, that sort of stuff, are high antioxidants. They are. And they help really kind of clean that up. So you may also be suffering from kind of a twofold challenge here, where you're creating a lot of free radicals based upon your diet and exercise that we do, and not getting enough antioxidants into your body to clean that up. So if you're dealing with a lot of inflammation and soreness, one of the first things, well, that's a whole other topic for the recovery, you know, different recovery shakes and making sure they're clean and making sure you're doing it. Fish oil is huge. If anybody has questions on that, I can go through that at the end. But then you also may want to, obviously increase your intake of berries and vegetables to a high load, but then you may want to really consider an antioxidant supplement too, okay? Vitamin C is a very potent, just natural kind of antioxidant, but there's all sorts of different antioxidants that are out there, supplements that are out there, and that's a very, very good thing because you may just be creating a lot of free radicals and really burdening your body's ability to kind of clean those up, okay? The second thing that is a big issue when kind of people go paleo, so I'm going to run through this really quick as we kind of, just to have a say. Okay, the second thing that a lot of people have issue with is the digestion and absorption. So now they're going from eating cheap carbs, crappy food, to real food, and their body goes, what the hell is this? Okay, happened to me, all right, when I clean this thing up. And so what happens is the body, and again, we're stressful, our GI motility and our ability to digest and chop up and absorb this food and actually make it useful is kind of hindered because of the other things too. So if you're having trouble, if you start switching over to a paleo diet and eating more clean grass-fed meat, eating more vegetables, nuts, seeds, and berries, and you're having a tough time digesting them, start taking some probiotics, some enzymes, that sort of stuff, and really making sure that you're kind of giving your body a little extra help to clear that out. Another quick little cheap and easy chiropractic tip too. A lot of folks with the way we live, with 70% of people sitting at a desk all day for their job, and then even with lifting weights overhead and that sort of stuff too, we tend to carry a lot of stress in our mid-back and kind of our thoracolumbar spine. That mid-back, mid-portion of the spine is where we call the celiac plexus is, which is the nerves that control all the motility and the absorption of the gut. Your nervous system controls all your digestion without you having to think about it, right? You don't eat the banana and then go, okay, move it to the esophagus, then in the stomach, all right, now I'm going to absorb that, right? It all happens kind of with, you know, unconscious control. Well, a lot of people carry an absolute ton of stress in their middle back, which weakens their nerve response to their stomach and digestive system, and they don't move things through. So where I'm going with this is, if you also have a lot of mid-back, low-back soreness, make sure you're dealing with that by rolling out, stretching out, watching your posture, creating your better ergonomics at the office, that sort of stuff. Because otherwise your kind of nerve control of your gut may be hindered, and it's going to really kind of mess with you as you try and move into this sort of diet, because you won't be able to absorb and move things through. Okay? So that's another little part that's huge with that. Real quick start guide. These handouts are up here. This is from Rob Wolf's Paleo Solution book. By far and away, I think one of the top paleo books that are out there. And then the other one, again, I really, really, really love Wheat Belly. Julie also put a great handout out there with some websites. Paleo OMG is out there. We actually have in our gym, Jen Turman. It's Busy Paleo Mom. Yeah, right here. This, in the last 6 months, and she's got this rocking, this has made our life all that much better. And I'll say this right now, guys, I learned about this probably about 7 or 8 years ago. So from Schwann's Food Velveeta time in my life, right, Corey Matthews days, I even had curly hair, and I had this puka shell necklace. I was so chubby I couldn't even hardly, it wouldn't come on, I think it was molded. I don't know, and then I married smoking hot blonde, marathon running, for those of you who know my wife. She had 3 babies, and now is just already back out here rocking it. And she, however that happened, but it happened. And so this has been an evolutionary process for us big time. Wherever you are coming in today, if you're listening to me talk today and you've heard this a bazillion times, and you're trying to refine and get better, keep moving forward. If you're hearing this for the very first time, no big deal, okay? You don't need to go from 0 to 100 tomorrow. In fact, if you take that approach, you will go right back to Starbucks and that sort of, and cream cheese bagels in a heartbeat because you'll burn yourself out. This is about understanding steps and understanding processes of how to get there. But cheat codes for that are in these handouts. Jen's busy paleo mom, so that's the application of it. That's where really truthfully my wife comes in. That's where Julie is incredible at this. It's actually just starting to work it, not getting discouraged. The first time you make pasta la pasta, you may eat it and go, oh. And the second time it gets better, and the third time it gets better, okay? The first time, Katrina, you eat grass-fed beef and you're like, why am I chewing on a shoe, right? Yeah, it should, you know what I mean? Instead of tasting, fat and out of shape and high sugar, that's really, that's catalog, that's kind of how they are. And so really, that busy paleo mom, there's just stuff out there, paleo, there's cheat codes. You guys really, the number one thing, and he kind of, it's not quite on here, but it is in a different way. So the number one thing he says is clean out the pantry, okay? The rice, the pasta, the breads, all this sort of stuff. If you eat them, or if you have them in your house, what are you going to do to them? Eat them, okay? Didn't even get into that layer of it, because I got into 5 million other layers of it. But the gut and the brain are very much connected. 90% of the neurotransmitters and serotonin that we make for our brain, made in the gut. When you eat this crap, literally, wheat breaks down. The polypeptides that come from wheat have a unique capacity to cross the blood-brain barrier and act like morphine and opioids, okay? Wheat is literally addictive. You think the USDA doesn't know that? You think that this wasn't really kind of understood actually in the 70s and 80s? Because what's happened, the economy sucks right now, right? For everybody else except for who? Farmers, food, and drug industry.
Politicians.
And politicians. So who do the politicians take care of? Farm Act, just passed, food, and big pharma. Right? It's horrendous. I don't want to be a crazy conspiracy theorist, but it is flat out true. When I graduated high school, the day after I graduated, we went to a sale. My dad's first 80 acres that he had ever bought was for sale. It sold for $3,000 an acre. Okay? And I remember my dad, we got in the truck, my dad goes, holy shit, that was really expensive. I can't believe it sold for $3,000. He just retired, moved to Vegas so he can sit and gamble and eat at a buffet. And we teach eat well, move well, think well. My dad's happy as can be, but he literally drinks Coca-Cola, BV, and coffee and eats at buffets all day long, but he's happy as can be. But he just sold, and there's land now selling in my hometown, in the county I grew up in, which can grow more corn than anywhere else on the planet, $15,000 an acre, okay? So 5 times what it was 10 years ago, because they can now raise more corn, which is in everybody's food, which is making everybody fat, which is making everybody buy drugs. So it just keeps going, okay? Yep. So, last tangent, maybe. So number one thing is you just got to clean that stuff up. You're literally addicted to it, okay? It changes your neurological function. We're addicted to wheat. So really, to kick this off, if you're a newbie, 60-day paleo challenge starts when? Next month? Like February?
Yeah. Secret.
Oh!
I
I would ask Matt and Brittany if maybe they'll do a paleo challenge. That's how I do.
know where that is.
Alright, so I let it on the back. But it's crucial because what you really have to do is in the beginning, you have to be able to turn this vicious cycle off, okay? Because with especially some of this stuff, if you're really going to do it, you're really addicted to it. And you really got to clean it out and you really got to commit to it. Matt, would you like to maybe just give a little bit of a lowdown on what happened with the last paleo challenge at this place?
Changed my life.
What happened? Give us some specs.
Probably a year, it was almost a year ago.
Yeah.
I came in and weighed 215 when I started. And I just listened to this talk a year ago, came in, cut it off, and just changed it, went home, told Ashley. We cleaned out our cabinets and I said, let's do it. And I lost, through the paleo challenge, 28 pounds in 8 weeks. And then I went on to lose just about 39. So, big change.
The pre and post pictures are insane.
They're awesome.
So
I had a hot husband again.
Yeah!
That's before is actually sitting out in the lobby on his gold card. And nobody even recognizes who he is.
Yeah.
It's the way this can change. There's a reason, guys, to take Sebastian out of the equation. There's a reason that nutrition is on the bottom of this, right? I mean, you see it, right? I'm sure you guys have been training people for 2 years in here who just haven't changed their diet yet. and they may get frustrated when they're not getting to where they want to be. They're out here and they're doing it, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
How do you adjust the paleo diet for endurance athletes?
You know what? For endurance athletes, really, yeah. You want to have an offshoot?
I mean, it all depends on what you're doing. You will balance it off. You will take in more carbohydrates, sweet potatoes, yams, those sort of things. When you are doing actual races and whatnot, even the paleo diet for athletes, it says, okay, you may have to take in some non-paleo foods. It's additional sugar.
Yeah, if you look at kind of the pecking order, right? Like, you know, refined grains, white sugars, that sort of stuff, they're the worst, right? Their glycemic index is like 100 and above. Then whole grains below that. But your starches, your sweet potatoes, those sort of things are kind of...
There's definitely ways to do it, and especially with like coconut water being a lot more prevalent, that is a great recovery drink. It's something that you can take in while you are racing. And it was one of the best things I took in the entire time I was training for my marathon.
Truthfully, coconut water is and cooking with coconut oil, I kind of, sorry, I should have added that in there. I knew I was missing something of that. The stuff we cook with is huge, okay? If you're cooking with vegetable oils, canola oils, soybean oils, that sort of stuff, you're cooking with omega-6 fatty acids, and that's getting into your food. If you cook with olive oil, coconut oil, and even like walnut oil is pretty good, and get some of that stuff in, that is a huge change that flies under the radar, okay? And so rule of thumb, just real quick on that too, olive oil is good to cook with, but you want to keep it below like 300, 350. If you go high, it gets rancid, and it actually turns into more of a saturated fat, okay? So don't cook with olive oil at high heats or cook fast. Truthfully, and even cooking your grass-fed meat and that sort of stuff, slow down. That's a good rule of thumb. Eat well, move well, think well. Everybody, write down on top of your page, whether it's your nutrition, your life, slow the hell down. I know I'm probably not the best person to tell people to do that, so I'm a little crazy. But that's a huge thing, okay? Take time to cook your meals with your children. We fell in love with our house because it had a big old island. You guys have been there right in the center. My kids spend every meal on that island, helping us chop up the fruits and vegetables that go into the smoothie, helping us wrap the bacon that goes around things, because we wrap everything in bacon, okay? And they're involved in the process. And guess what happens for your kids when they become involved in the process? They have ownership in it, so they're cool with it. The smoothie may taste like absolute crap, but they love it because they had actually something to do with it, okay? It's the same thing for us. Slow down, prepare. That's really what I was going with this 15 minutes ago before my last tangent. Preparation and planning is key. This diet does not work on the fast-paced American traditional lifestyle. You got to prepare for it. You got to want it. You got to be consistent with it, okay? I would recommend every Sunday night and Monday morning, however you want to do it, or just however your week works out. Every Sunday, Christina, she writes down her entire meal plan for the week. She knows exactly what she's making, so when she goes to Trader Joe's and to Fresh Market or fills out her order for door-to-door organics and Meatgo, we know exactly what we're getting. We don't buy anything else, okay? We buy that stuff to make those meals, and we eat those meals. And we have our one treat meal a week, okay? We go out, and even our treat meal is usually Dukes, you know, bison burger, no bun, goat cheese, sweet potato fries. I can call them the Dukes, and they know exactly what we get, okay? And so you can still really enjoy the meals on this diet. That chicken, that Gunthorpe Farms chicken with veggies and that sort of stuff. Wintertime, own the slow cooker. Go nuts with it. If you're busy, make a massive crock pot slow cooker meal with your healthy, organic, clean meats, grass-fed meats, tons of vegetables, that sort of stuff wrapped up into it. You got dinner, you got your meal for the next day, okay? It's so much easier than people make it seem to be. So clean out the pantry, go shopping, obviously avoid the aisles. There's nothing you need in the aisles, except for maybe the coconut oil and the olive oil, right? So avoid the aisles and avoid the dairy section too, because they're not in the aisles. And yeah, cook. It's absolutely just huge. But all right, there's all this stuff. You guys can have that. I went a little longer than I intended to. This is really kind of a cool one here. Really what we've got, this is a little reference sheet. I just finished up reading Wheat Belly for like the 3rd time in the last 3 weeks because it's just a really, really, really good read. And so I made some important kind of points on there that I actually went through today. So there's little extra notes on that. Okay. Kind of all over the place to chat, but questions? Comments, concerns, fire away.
Can you explain the whole thing about no beans or legumes? What's green beans? Is that
Yeah,
okay, not?
so with that world, you're kind of getting into the way you'd be most familiar with is to the glycemic index world again a little bit, okay? They are still going to carry a higher kind of carbohydrate glycemic index. They're going to crash your blood sugar quicker than, you know, low glycemic to the medium glycemic index fruits and vegetables, okay? They're kind of like to the endurance, they're not, you know, a white, you know, cinnamon bagel from Panera sort of thing, but they're also going to really, they don't have as much good to them. There's not really any healthy, unsaturated fats to them like you have with, you know, sunflower seeds and, you know, almonds, those sort of things. So really, they're kind of in the middle ground a little bit, but they're still just not the smoothest as far as blood sugar control, and you're also not getting that much out of them. Their claim to fame is fiber, right? That's kind of the thing they have with it. But that's a whole other conversation. There's just like there's different kinds of carbohydrates, there's different kinds of calories, there's different kinds of fiber too. Our body's happiest with the fiber that comes from these things.
They call it a third world protein. It's got lectin in it, right?
Huh?
Lectin?
Yes, yeah. It's all, yeah. And truthfully, it is. It's got some stuff in it that really should be there that kind of mimics and comes right up into here. And also, beans, legumes, that whole egg industry, mostly genetically modified.
What about peanut butter?
I thought with Dave leaving that question there. Peanut butter, almond butter, way up here, peanut butter way down here. If you want to get your deadlift higher, throw down a whole lot of peanut butter and IPAs. But no, what it really comes down to, peanuts are, they're not real clean. They have some aflatoxin and other sort of things into them. The way they're processed is kind of nasty. They've been genetically modified in that too. As with anything, if you're going to do it, get clean, organic sources of it. I mean, we do have peanut butter from time to time. That's kind of a little bit of our cheat that gets in there.
Yeah.
Get the natural, chunky Smuckers. It's like probably, if you're gonna go peanut butter, that's the best to go. It's the two, what are the two ingredients of peanut butters? It's just peanuts.
You want, yes.
But if you're eating Jif, throw it away.
Yeah.
It's sugar. It's high fructose corn syrup is the second ingredient. Give it to, you know, feed the mice with it on your mousetrap. Throw that crap away. That stuff is terrible for you. Jif is terrible for you.
The peanut butter, the natural honey roasted, they've grinded themselves right at Fresh Market. Is mine. You get every now and again we'll grab the little guy of the honey roasted one, and it lasts like maybe the drive home. I live about a mile from and so that's a little bit of a cheat with that too. But again, I mean, here's the fun thing with this. When you own this, when you're really rocking this day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, and then you want to go out and you want to have, you know, you don't have to freak out because, and again, I'll tell you this too, once you get here, like Matt said, even when you're faced with this sort of stuff, you won't even want it anyways because you'll start to understand exactly, you know, you'll go from feeling like a rocket to feeling like, you know, a turd in no time.
Can I say something? Besides the weight loss, you know, if you make this change, just in my family, we dealt with chronic sinus infections, eczema, sleep issues, IBS, autism, like across the board. So faced with those choices, you know, looking at the faces of the kids, there's no chance that they're gonna get the goldfish over the banana. So it's huge.
If you do jump into this thing 2 feet, you're gonna go through a reset period, and that keep fighting through that because it doesn't last that long. And I mean, I noticed it in the gym big time. I mean, I did 3 pulls on the rower. And I was like, I don't think I can do anymore because if you just go through a big reset period, it would last about a week or a week and a half. And once I got through that, you got newfound energy. You thought you had energy before that, you'll get new stuff out of it. It's huge.
It's literally a withdrawal. it's a withdrawal that you're getting.
It's different for everyone too. I mean, he's lucky it lasts a week and a half. Other people
It could last 2 to 4.
He could last a month.
The older you are, the more crap you've been eating, probably the longer it's going to take.
Yeah. True. And truly, I would say this, guys, I really, really enjoy going through this talk, so I don't forget to say, I am here for anybody. Julie is here, our office. You can email us, you can contact us, you can hunt me down on Facebook, that sort of stuff. But what Julie was just saying, what Matt's alluding to, what these guys are alluding to is it's about what you're really going to get out of it. It's about the experience of life that you can really get out of it. You will operate in a clean, efficient manner that you've never really experienced before. And when you get there, you're hooked. Okay? People, sedentary living and eating like crap is definitely addictive. The way our body, the way our neurology and our physiology works, we are creatures of habit. Okay? Bad things beget bad things with our physiology, but just in the same manner, good things beget good things. If you cross this boundary, if you get over that hump that we're talking about with this, you will be set. You will stay in that good groove. And even if you get the slightest bit off, you'll be right back home. So Christina and I, and again, we're all human in this, and you have to understand this even going forward too. I was telling you, we went to Florida for Thanksgiving, traveled with 3 little kids, around Uncle, it was Thanksgiving week. My in-laws, we just didn't do well for about a week. And then it got us off our track for another couple of weeks when we came home, and the office was crazy, everything was crazy. We woke up the day after Christmas and we're like, screw this, that's enough. I drove to the office, I got my BIA analysis to measure body fat composition. We got on the scale, we did pre and post pictures, and we did our own 8-week challenge. I've been at it for like 10 to 14 days. Oh my God. And it wasn't like I fell off to, sucking down, cheesy proofs every single day. But now that we're clean and rocking again, it has been so much better for everything. And you deserve to live it that way. That's literally the way you were genetically designed to live, okay? All this sickness, illness, autism, eczema, diabetes, and all that, it is not chance. It is choice. That is literally what it is, okay? We are choosing to, shorten our lives by what we put in our mouth, okay? A diabetic lives 8 years shorter lifespan than a non-diabetic. 8 years, okay? And this will reverse diabetes in no time. Seen it over and over and over again in our office, okay?
Hey Tony, what's your take on alcohol?
Alcohol, mostly grain-based, right? So you got 2 things, mostly grain-based.
Like, is gluten-free better if you go, like 2 brothers, or you're doing?
Yeah,
you enjoy
as
beer
with anything, if you take it and you isolate it in and of itself, yeah, there's sliding scales of better versus not good. So definitely gluten-free. There's paleo margaritas, that sort of stuff. So tequila is about the only thing making fruit.
Okay.
Clear is probably, if you have to go, clear is better than not clear. But alcohol is not good for you, period.
Right.
Alcohol is very acidic. Yeah. In addition to the Florida, I've been eating a lot of peanut. That month prior, December, I think I consumed more IPAs and peanut butter than I had in like the whole 11 months prior. And I got on the scale. I lost 6 pounds in like 12 days just from basically cleaning up, getting the alcohol out, and a little bit of the peanut butter out. It really does come down to it. But alcohol, for the most part, is really acidic. All right, so it really moves your pH low. Like you can have, I'm a nerd, clearly, right? So we've got too much testing capacities at our hands. I should live farther from the office. But we have pH strips. I have done it where we eat like a real rock star classic, full of vegetables, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and organic meat meal. Test my pH when I have it without alcohol, and then have that same meal with 1 beer. Test pH. My pH is just as low as if I eat, a craft meal that goes on with it. Alcohol really, really dives your pH. It's hard to recover from. But I do love Two Brothers IPA. Yeah. All right. Any other? So handouts. Yeah.
I have one more question, real quick. On the bananas, you said that they're high sugar. Are they also high glycemic? Or
yeah, they are.
Okay.
Bananas, dates, figs. Those things they're glycemic index. I think a banana is like 60 to 70 for glycemic index. Dates and figs are like 80 to 100, which is why if you just wrap them in bacon, it neutralizes it.
So is it okay?
You know what? So here, great question. Specifically for the CrossFit stuff, I should have even added that down here. Okay, if you're moving at a high level and you're moving a lot, especially let's say you don't sit all day at your job, I actually generally have our rule of thumb. So bananas and higher glycemic index stuff is not the devil first thing in the morning, or if you're going through a day where you're going to get a workout in. Okay, like for me, we're really busy chiropractic office. I'm on my feet. I CrossFit. I have 3 little kids. I'm constantly moving. So I eat a decent not high, but a decent amount of fruit. But the rule of thumb, especially for your kids too, is fruit and higher glycemic index things are okay in the morning because you're out and about, you're moving, you're going to burn off that sugar. Fruit with dinner and starches with dinner are a really bad idea because generally you're done for the night, right? After that, you're eating an hour, 2-3 hours before you go to bed, and then you're not moving. So now during the nighttime, your body's going to take those carbohydrates, whether from a banana or from a bagel or a pasta, and it's going to turn it into fat at nighttime. So it's really also about kind of timing of your meals and that sort of stuff. And we're all a little bit different too as to if you're a nighttime, class guy or if you're a daytime class guy. If you're coming in at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock to do a CrossFit workout, if you have a banana at 3:30, 4 o'clock, not a horrible idea because you're going to be able to kind of get after it and burn that off. I have a banana and an almonds and I like and the kind bar all the time, just kind of stash in my office all the time. And like before our afternoon shift when we're slamming, we'll adjust like 60, 70, 80 people. For those of you that have been in there, it's a kind of ongoing moving thing. I have a little bit of fruit because otherwise if I don't, I crash by like 5, 6 o'clock and I still, got to keep going. Especially if I'm coming out here at like 7:08 for the 7 o'clock class.
That's probably the only time I eat a banana is I'll eat it about an hour and a half before I'm going to work out. And that's because I had lunch at noon and I'm going to work out at 7 and have anything to eat, so I'll eat something on the way here. So it's good fuel, especially in competitions too. We'll eat a banana every competition in between workouts.
You have to be okay with, we went through all the kind of general concepts and a couple little specialties too, but you gotta personalize your nutrition. The better you understand this, you can personalize it and tailor it to yourself. That's how we take care of our patient. That's how we take care of ourselves. It changes a little bit. So, you definitely got the big, huge overview of everything here, but that's why I kind of try to present it this way instead of just saying, oh, do this, do this, do this, do this. I like to kind of give people an understanding of like the insulin response to that because then you can understand how it's going to affect your life because you may work out at a different time and you may do different things for a living than that, okay? And so you really got to watch it, especially for those of you that sit all day at your desk and aren't able to move and do a whole lot. You got to really kind of watch it with the nutrition there.
I work out 5:30 in the morning, so what do you recommend that I eat hard? That will get in my system rather than...
You know what I would say, definitely at night, your going to bed metabolism absolutely has to be crucial. So you really want to have a high-fat diet nighttime, okay? Your night meal, your last meal of your day before really needs to be a high-fat, high kind of fiber sort of content meal because that is more of a slow burn, so when you turn around in the morning, you'll still have that more. If you have any form of, even truthfully, you really even got to take your vegetables and look at really only eating like low glycemic index vegetables at nighttime. Because if you're eating higher glycemic index veggies or that sort of stuff at night, your blood sugar will really dip low during the night, and it's hard to get that back up before you get here at 5:30 in the morning. And it depends on what you do and you get up. Like Christina gets up at 4:30 and she's got to nurse the baby, does like 8 loads of laundry, pays the bills, and everything comes out because I'm terrified of her. She's really... so she'll have a banana at about 4:30, 4:40 every morning.
Yeah, if you're up early enough, you're not throwing a banana in right before 3, 2, 1, go.
No, yeah.
I'll do a protein shake if I, because that's something that'll get to me right away.
Do you do the whole thing or do you cut it in half?
I usually do like a half serving, 45 minutes before I work out. So, you won't be losing it mid-wad if you do it early enough. But it'll give you something. For the most part, when I work at 5:30, it's an empty stomach. But your fuel the night before the dinner is going to help your performance the next morning. If you eat nothing the night before, don't expect to come in here and kill it at 5:30 in the morning.
Definitely not
an empty
alcohol.
stomach.
You'd really be in trouble if you have alcohol with that because it really dips your pH down. The other thing is then on the backside of that, your recovery is huge. You got to really own your recovery shake on the backside of it and your nutrition afterwards. You can't go if you're going to do the empty stomach. Like Christina mainly comes down. I don't do 5, but I was more of an empty stomach too because obviously it doesn't take a whole lot to get this ready. So I roll out in no time and get here. So I don't really get up early enough that I would put a banana down. But if you then did that on an empty stomach, then let's say you didn't even eat your breakfast until 7:30, 8 o'clock, you're really messing with your metabolism then. You got to finish that workout and be ready to get something in afterwards if you're a 5:30 a.m. person. Get your metabolism going for the day. Because otherwise, if you start off your day on a tough note, it's hard to recover from that. Any other specific CrossFit related stuff as far as recovery or supplements and that sort of stuff? The fish oil thing, Sometimes it's out there, and again, you always have to personalize that too. You do not need to drink a half bottle of fish oil every single day, okay? Especially if you're doing this, okay? If you're eating grass-fed meats, okay, pasture-raised, that sort of stuff, remember you're getting omega-3s in your diet. Oh, avocados. You just buy an avocado farm. I would love to invest in a damn avocado farm. Avocados are the greatest. For your kids, the healthiest food that kids can eat is avocados. Literally, babies, weaning babies, give them, you know, mash up some, you know, vegetables and puree them, and then give them avocado. I mean, yeah.
On top of our burger.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah.
So hair.
And breakfast. Don't be afraid of spices. Okay. A lot of people cook when they switch over to paleo. They don't add any flavoring or spices to it. I know this was kind of an issue we had in the beginning, and it doesn't have the same flavor because you don't have all the sugar and the processed stuff into it. Spice it up. Spices will get your metabolism going and get that rock and roll.
I know excellent place for spices.
Penzies.
Penzies Spices. It's like the best place ever for spices. You can order them online, order through a catalog. There's one, I think the closest one is Naperville, but it originated in Wisconsin, and they list all the stuff that's in it, and they'll tell you on the label what it's good for.
How do you spell it?
Penzeys.
Yeah, Penzies. And like it will say on the label, I make this awesome meatloaf. It's got like cinnamon and nutmeg and ground beef with sausage and bacon. But you check it. Some of them obviously have sugar in it, so you just get the ones that don't. And it's a great substitute, and it's money. Took my cooking up a notch. There's that.
Any other questions, guys? Are you gonna do something with this, or?
I don't have anything. I don't know how to raffle it up. We'll make it rocket or something.
Guys, if you're doing CrossFit, you're not taking fish oil. Take fish oil. I'm serious.
After, before, throughout the day.
I take it with every meal. You know, Rachel gets really brick because I just go like this and then right before a meal. But I take it like a shot of it before every meal. Okay. Even if you're eating grass fed.
Take it with the...
Yeah,
capsules are fine.
Capsules are fine.
It helps with inflammation. Yeah. And
you guys sold that stuff there too, right?
Yeah. This is an A choice. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, if you're sore, this helps with recovery. It helps with cardiovascular health, but inflammation. You know, I fight with my dad all the time because you know he's sore and he's hurt and all this stuff. And I asked him, "Are you taking your fish oil?" He goes, "What's fish oil for? I don't need that." I go, "Well, it's for your inflammation." He goes, "I don't have any inflammation." You're right, Dad. You can't walk. You're right. What was I thinking? But take this stuff. I take it. I actually take it 2 or 3 times a day.
If everybody in the world took fish oil, arthritis, heart disease can't be cut in half minimum. I mean, literally, we take. So I like the liquid better because it's absorbed better. Okay. As with all supplements, not all, just like with calories and everything else, not all supplements are created equal. In H choice, I've been using it for 7 years. It's absolutely insane. So the does anybody take an H choice fish oil in here?
What?
Wait, what's that?
Alright, who's, let me ask you this. I forgot like raffle ways to do this at all. Who's relatively new to this whole way of eating and living? Raise your hand. Alright, you raise your hand first. You're good. So this book, this is the guy that taught me everything with that. Alright, there you go. That is awesome. That covers all the lifestyle side of it. Who's never taken fish oil? There you go.
Lucky.
Alright.
When you take it, it's gonna be lemony, and you know, take it with some water immediately because it's not gonna taste awesome. Okay. That's why a lot of people take pill form. I don't like to carry pills around. I have a phobia with swallowing pills, so I always take that. I take the liquid. I think you do too, don't you?
Yeah.
Liquid.
I have.
It's easier. I just take it with a shot glass and then chug it real quick. But
yeah, recovery stuff. Fish oil, obviously the #1 thing, way up there with recovery, soreness, muscle stiffness. Then consider an antioxidant like vitamin C or OPC3, and then magnesium too. Okay, if you're kind of like slow to get the veggies, I mean, you should get your magnesium in your vegetables, that sort of stuff. But I take a magnesium supplement a lot of times because I am just. You have to personalize stuff, right? I'm a crazy SOB, so I know that I go too fast and probably do a little too much. So I add things into my supplement to my diet to try and help me stay up to speed. And since I started adding magnesium too, it's been good for me with recovery and that sort of stuff. All right.
I know you mentioned the Paleo blog, Jen Termans. If you go to our website, Upper right-hand corner, it says Members Resources in small letters.
Yep.
Click that, scroll down to nutrition. We have like 4 books, I think. You have like 4 websites with recipes. She's got a lot of things in there for nutrition that you guys just go to that. It's real easy. Read it on your phone, read it on your computer. Good resources for what we're talking about today.
What's great about Jen's blog is that she kind of goes around to all the different websites and she kind of
condenses it all. Paleo OMG is probably
she's very
our go-to.
She's got 4 kids, so.
Yeah. And Julie, is an amazing resource with the meat goat. We just started with her launching a program in our office. We're going to have a 6-month paleo nutritional coaching program that Julie's going to run. So truthfully, I guess if anybody really feels they need additional structure or help, certainly we'd help you out in that regard too. Who has not tried door-to-door organics? Okay, alright, I'm going to do 2 of these. You guys brought babies. Sorry, you're too old. Alright. The baby, I'll start with you, and then I'm going to get your guys' contact too. You guys each, or door-to-door, gave us the fruit here today too. And then I originally had them give us 1, but there's 2 babies here, so I'm going to make it 2. My brother's kind of a big wig with door-to-door, so I have some pull. You get a free biddy box, and then there'll be an additional, and we'll get you guys one too. Just put your email address on there and give me that thing back. You get a free biddy box from them, and then one of the chickens, well, you got to order it, but it'll be a coupon for $10 to get one of the chickens from
Here, Jim, you got that?
So yeah, check out door-to-door Organics. They have their website is an awesome resource. They're starting to do a lot more kind of paleo-related stuff on that too. I mean, it's out there, guys. It's really out there. So thank you very much for coming.
Thanks.